What if I told you that most of your unhappiness, it actually comes from trying to please other people? Well, that right there is the core radical idea behind the best-selling book, The Courage to Be Disliked. In this explainer, we're going to walk through the 5 powerful conversations between a philosopher and a young man that could completely change how you see your life. So each night of their conversation unpacks a core principle from the psychologist Alfred Adler. We're going to get into some big ideas, like focusing on your purpose instead of your past, separating your responsibilities from other people's, and finding real power in the present moment. All of it is designed to guide you toward genuine freedom and happiness. So, here's our game plan. We're going to go through each of the 5 nights of their dialogue, one by one, and then at the end, I'll leave you with some key takeaways so you can start applying these ideas to your own life. All right, let's jump in. All right, let's kick things off with night 1, which is called The Unknown Third Giant. This is really where the foundation for everything else gets laid. So the conversation starts by introducing us to Alfred Adler. Now, he was a contemporary of Freud and Jung, but his ideas were, surprisingly overlooked for a long time. And his take is pretty radical. Adler says your past doesn't control you. Nope. Instead, we are the ones who give meaning to our past experiences, and that meaning is what dictates how we act today. And this brings us to a really crucial shift in thinking. It's about moving away from etiology, which is all about past causes, and moving toward teleology, which is all about purpose. The point Adler is making is that we don't act because of something that happened to us. We act to achieve a goal that we have right now, even if we're not consciously aware of that goal. Okay, so right about now, you're probably thinking the same thing the youth in the book was thinking. Hang on a second. What about real trauma? What about those past failures that feel absolutely impossible to shake? And that's a totally fair question. And the philosopher's response is really powerful. He takes things like chronic anger or choosing to be isolated and just flips them on their head. He argues that these aren't just things happening to us. On some level, we are subconsciously choosing these feelings to achieve a goal, maybe to get attention or to avoid a challenge. The moment you see that hidden purpose, you're no longer a prisoner of your past. So, if our actions are driven by purpose, then where do those purposes even come from? Well, that leads us right into night 2, and wow, this is a bold claim. All of our problems are, at their root, interpersonal problems. Building on that whole idea of purpose, the philosopher insists that pretty much every emotional struggle we face, envy, anxiety, aggression, you name it, is born from our relationships and interactions with other people. The solution he offers is something called community feeling. It's that deep sense of belonging you get, but it comes from relationships built on mutual respect. Think of it like seeing others as equals, side by side on a level playing field, not as rivals you have to beat on some ladder of superiority. I mean, think about it. So much of our anxiety comes from needing recognition from others, right? And that just leads to constantly comparing ourselves and feeling resentful. So the philosopher urges this powerful shift in mindset. Stop competing and start contributing. The second you start seeing other people as comrades on the same journey, not as opponents in some race, you unlock a real sense of belonging, and all that inner conflict just starts to quiet down. And this whole idea of contribution, it leads us to a really practical, life-changing tool in night 3. This one is a real game changer, learning to discard other people's tasks. The philosopher argues that a huge amount of our distress comes from getting all tangled up in other people's business. So task separation is all about drawing a very clear line. What is my task and what is theirs? By focusing only on what we can control, our own choices, we get to take back control of our emotional lives and stop meddling in things that, ultimately, are not our business. He realizes that how his parents judge him, well, that's their task. It's based on their values and their experiences. His task is just to live his own life authentically. And that simple separation, it instantly dissolves that feeling of being emotionally tangled up and creates space for much healthier boundaries. This is huge, right? Just think about how much energy we all waste worrying about what other people think of us. All right, now we're getting to what might be the toughest idea of them all. Let's dive into night 4, the courage to be ordinary. So in night 4, the philosopher challenges a belief that's buried deep inside most of us, the need to be special. He reveals that this constant push for exceptionalism often comes from a place of fear, a fear of being rejected if we're just, ordinary. It's a trap that depends on other people telling you you're good enough. But the alternative? Embracing your ordinariness. Now, this isn't about being mediocre. Not at all. It's about finding value in your small, everyday contributions. And making that shift, man, it gets you off that exhausting treadmill of comparison and opens the door to real, humble connection with others. So when you stop worrying about other people's tasks and you let go of that constant need to be special, you're suddenly free to focus on what's truly important. And that brings us to the culmination of all these ideas in Night 5, to live in the here and now. The philosopher explains that our minds are constantly being hijacked by the past and the future. Regrets and worries just steal our energy away from the only place life is actually happening, right here, right now. True happiness isn't some destination you eventually arrive at. It's found by engaging fully with your whole heart in this very moment. And through a simple mindfulness exercise, the youth makes this profound discovery. He realizes that true self-worth doesn't come from achieving some far-off goal down the road. It comes from the consistent, small acts of contribution and kindness that he can do every single day. Okay, so let's zoom out and connect all the dots. How do all 5 of these powerful nights come together? And more importantly, what can you actually do to start using this wisdom today? Over these 5 nights, Adlerian psychology offers us a truly liberating framework for living. It basically tells us that we are the authors of our own stories. We can build connections based on mutual respect, not on competition. We can set healthy boundaries just by focusing on our own tasks. We can find incredible freedom in just being ourselves. And ultimately, we can choose to live fully right here in the present moment. Now, if these ideas are really resonating with you, here are a few practical ways to bring them into your life. You could try journaling just to notice what meanings you're assigning to your past. You could pick one challenging relationship and consciously practice task separation, or maybe volunteer for a cause to cultivate that community feeling. And of course, reading Adler's original work or practicing mindfulness can really anchor you in this way of thinking. So this whole journey leaves us with a powerful question to carry forward into our own lives. Which task will you separate first to start reclaiming your freedom?